Welcome to Bloom and Beyond, the podcast from Bloom Behavior Consulting, where we help parents navigate early intervention with confidence, compassion, and clarity. We're your host. I'm Ramsey McGlamory.
And I'm Becca Black, both board-certified behavior analysts and moms who believe every family deserves support that grows with them. Whether your child has a diagnosis or you're simply seeking guidance to better understand their development, you're in the right place.
Let's explore the milestones, mindsets, and moments that can help you and your child bloom and beyond.
Karen and I have worked together for almost 3 years now. Yeah, so I started working with Karen's family back in 2022, I believe, when her son Ronan was in an early intervention comprehensive program, which means pretty much he was in that program full time. I was his BCBA, and over time we transitioned him to preschool. We went to preschool with him. He did great to the point where he was mastering his goals and no longer qualified for comprehensive program. So we stayed in touch over the next year or so. And then when I opened Bloom at the beginning of this year, we reached back out and we've been together ever since. So I'm going to turn it over to Karen. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your family.
Yes, so I'm Karen Saboria. I actually was born in Paraguay and I moved in Italy when I was about 13 years old. My mom and I moved there. I always dreamed about America. I have no idea why. But when I graduated high school, I told my mom I want to come visit. My mom's sister actually lives here in Georgia. And I say, I want to go visit her and my cousin. So she gets me a ticket. And my ticket was for 3 months. That was my whole summer I spent here. So I came visit, immediately was like, I'm moving here. And I went back to Italy. I started working really hard, saved money. I enrolled to school. I only stayed here for like a year or two. That was the goal. And I ended up meeting John. We get married and we have 3 boys. Ronan was born in 2019. And then we have 2 other boys. So Liam, he's currently 3, and Oliver is 2. So Ronan was born a little bit before the pandemic.
Okay.
Yes. So he was 2019. He was such a sweet little boy. I grew up with a lot of cousins and I'm the oldest sister. And I just had this feeling that he was, he was a little delayed from things, He wasn't pointing, he wasn't waving. So he never really learned how to wave. And that kind of like it was always on the top of my mind, like, what's going on, like something's going on. So I brought it up to his pediatrician and they kind of like brush it off, like, it's the pandemic and then they're not really socializing. It's very young to kind of do anything about it. So the months go on, his little words start coming out, but he quickly like regressed. Like the little 2-3 words that he was using quickly went away.
When did he start using those first couple of words? How old was he?
I would say like around 1, like, yeah, like, so it wasn't super delayed, but I just felt like he wasn't understanding, like when we were talking to him. And at the time, I didn't really know what that meant. Like I didn't know the definition of receptive or expressive language. Like I just thought that he was developmental, like behind us. Something was going on here. So we go back to his checkup. I think then it was like 15 months. And they said, well, if you want, we can refer you to a speech pathologist and we can get him evaluated and see if he qualifies. So we do that. And he does qualifies for speech. And I think we were now 18 months. So
And at this point, how many words did he have at 18 months?
again, just like the word never like a 2 sentence and just like a mom, dad, or, like I would say like a 4 or 5, like a very simple words like Luna for our dog, mom, dad, and water. And then we do the assessment and based on the question that she was asking, like I trying to understand if he was able to understand things. Like, hey, like, bring me the teddy bear, and he would just not even move or look around. So that was like, okay, so I think I'm right. You think? something's going on. He's not clearly understanding what the questions were. So I asked her opinion. I kind of felt like a little brushed off. It's like the pandemic. And then we reached to a point where the months go on and his words are still not coming out. He's still is not making any progress. And I asked her, "Well, can you tell me what's going on?" And
Yeah.
she tells me, I think, he just a speech delay. And then we started seeing behaviors, like some sort of, just like getting really frustrated with things. Like he would get something like very minimal would happen and he would just lose it. I just knew like something's going on.
Yeah. When you're having this mom's intuition this whole time of like something's not right, and this started 9 months before. I mean, we're
Yeah.
talking, you're at 18 months now,
Yeah.
and it started at 9 where you started noticing
Yeah.
things were different. And this whole time, private providers are kind of getting like brushed off. Other things are getting blamed. What was your like overall emotional state during that time? I just can't imagine what that would feel like when you know something is
Yes.
not right.
Yeah, so I always felt like I like trying to figure him out. Like, okay, what does he has? And I honestly felt like very lonely because they couldn't really explain to me what's going on. Okay, I'm like crazy, like.
Right.
But then again, there was like, well, he's not going to school. Maybe if you enroll him to school, you might see some progress, and that's ultimately what we decided to do. I think now he was 3, and that's when we decided, okay, well, let's enroll him to preschool and see, maybe we'll see some progress. I do remember having a conversation with the principal, me being straight honest with her, we are seeing some behaviors at home, and I don't know how this is gonna go, but I just was straight open with her, and I asked her to share with me any concerns she saw. So he started preschool, and we quickly got, a lot of feedbacks. So he was eloping, and then he was just throwing toys at the kids, flushing his socks on the toilet.
My goodness.
Yeah. And every day it was just something. And during that time, it was like a fall break or something like that. And we ended up driving to Florida to see my husband's John family. And we were at my mother's in law house probably for like about 30 minutes. We don't see her often, but we were there for 30 minutes and she quickly, she's like, does he have autism? Like a very nonchalant way. And I was like, I do, in the back of my head. At that time, I didn't really know much about autism. And I
Okay.
remember meeting a mom when Rona was probably like a 1 or 15 months old. And she just shared to me, like, oh, my son just got diagnosed with autism. And I was like asking her about a little bit about it. And she was like, yeah, I don't think your son has it. He's like very friendly and social. And I was like, okay, cool. Those are good.
Right.
He doesn't,
Yeah. It looks different for everyone.
exactly. So when my mother in law asked me, I was like, no, that mom told me that my son doesn't have it. And then I went home and started researching a lot about autism, and I was like, oh my god, I think he does have autism. And then I can tell the school where he was at, the principal, she didn't really want to quite tell me her concerns were as far as he's what he could have. So it was pointing in every direction. At the same time, we started doing play therapy, and I was trying to address his behavior. And I remember as soon as she started running quickly, went and hid under a tent. I was sharing with her, about what my mother-in-law said, and she was like, "Look, I do think he could have it. I recommend you to get him assessed and evaluated." And I was like, okay. It typically they try to hide and
How did it feel? Was it relief when somebody finally was like, yeah, there could be a name for all
yes,
of
it
these
could
things he's
be
experiencing?
yes, at the same time it did. But at the same time, it felt kind of like a grief, like a
Mhm.
grief, and also some sort of a relief. Just finally we have a name. Finally, we know what he has, and I don't have to be questioning and searching and trying to figure out his symptoms and asking Google. So that definitely helped. We got him assessed, and so we went for the assessment. And right after the assessment, it was like an hour and a half. And she looked at me and she said, "I don't think he has autism."
Autism assessment, a
Yeah,
psychologist.
the psychologist.
Yep.
Again, it felt like, oh my gosh, I just want to feel like I'm not crazy. Like he has something. Well, and then his reports come back, and she did give him a autism diagnosis. So his report kind of it goes back and forth saying, based on the behaviors and the teachers' assessments and our questionnaire and the teacher's questionnaire, I guess he has autism now. It's so hard to see when you're not seeing like the behaviors that we were concerned. Being rigid and just throwing meltdowns for random things, and getting so frustrated with a tower falling down, and throwing chairs, and like really scary stuff at the time.
Right. Yeah. And it's when, from what I've heard, from you are seeking that diagnosis, it almost, depending on your psychiatrist, you have to be pretty extreme and
Yep.
in both of those areas for them to diagnose so young. And
Yep.
so, as right now, he's presenting more level one autism levels. It makes sense why back then they were kind of like, I don't know if this is really it. But I feel like those are the ones that always go misdiagnosed, are the
Yep.
ones that are strictly like the behavioral,
Yep.
like the rigidity, the low tolerance for changes in routines. And it's
Yep.
like, yeah, they'll look at you and they're social and they'll say hi.
Yep.
And like so many people think like they can do that and it's not autism when really that's not the case at all.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And at the same time, like when we got that report, I felt like, oh my gosh, like she said, he doesn't, and no, he has it. So it's like it was very confusing. And like later on, I just really appreciated that she did get him diagnosed, because I did, read so many scary stories of kids just getting no diagnosed, and understanding what a diagnose means, like it is the label that makes parents scared, and I think that's what it did to me too. But I learned to just no, this is just a document so he can get the services that he needs.
Right, right. Exactly. And I think that's got to be hard, if especially if you aren't familiar with all of the different spectrum of things that autism can be. There's like one view of autism that a lot of people take, and it's not a realistic view until they hear that word. If they don't know that,
Yeah.
there are so many people in the world that are phenomenal, amazing people, and they have autism. And for whatever reason, we don't ever think of those people. We just think of, somebody that's like severely impacted. And we think like, oh, that's not my child. When actually, this is just their brain. All that is
Yep.
how their brain is mapped out. And you just got a ticket to supporting them and figuring out what works best for them. I'm thinking of your roller coaster of like, is. No, he isn't. No, he is.
Yeah, that was probably the hardest part. And just like
Yeah.
and having, like accepting his diagnosis was a lot harder, because all those people like yes or no, you know, that was the
Mhm.
hardest part probably.
Yeah, I'm sure. Because you're like, I have an answer. And now and I also feel grief. And now it's not that. And now
Yep.
it is. Yeah, that'd be really hard. How long did you have to wait for a diagnosis to get an assessment?
So so the assessment was it didn't take too long. I think so. He before we even got to the diagnose, like he ended up getting kicked out of that preschool. So he ends up getting kicked out of the school, and she recommends please get him assessed. And she asked me, look, he's always welcome to come here, but he's gonna need some sort of support, because we can keep up with him. We can provide the support that he needs. So we, at the same time, she recommends to go through the school system to the county to get him like an IEP and get him evaluated so he can get some services. And we were doing the private psychological evaluation at the same time. So that one was taking a lot longer. So I just constantly had to like get her, hey, is that ready yet? Because I kind of need it for the school. So we had something extra to present it. So apparently our intern was like taking a little long to, I guess, pay for the diagnose. So she was withholding that report until our insured pay. So
My
that was like
goodness.
another thing. Oh my God, you have the answer right there sitting. Like I need it. I want to see
Yeah.
just
Wow.
it felt like, oh my gosh, like I know you have it
Mhm.
ready there, you admitted it, I just I can't provide it to you until, your insurance come back and pay it, and it's like, oh my gosh.
Wow. I had never heard of that. My
Yep.
gosh.
And then, like, I think I did, send her an email, explaining that we really need it so he can get, some support through the the school system. And I think she was like, okay, she was very kind and she ended up sending it. Yeah.
Great. Great. I mean, I'm assuming that's just policy to make sure,
Yep.
everybody's got to have money to live. At the same time, it's like, no, I really like there's so many steps that
Yes.
have to
Yes.
happen next. I have to have this. Wow. Okay. So you got the diagnosis and then did you bring it back to the school? Was he allowed at the school while you were waiting for this diagnosis? Or they were kind of like, he's got to stay home until
Yep.
you come back with somebody. Okay.
Yep. So, like, at the time, we had no idea. We were just completely lost, like what support looked like she was like given the principal was like a really amazing, but she also wasn't really knowledgeable on like how the support looked, because there was a little boy there in Brennan's classroom that was getting some sort of support. He had like some medical condition, but it wasn't autism. And I remember asking her, hey, how do we get paid, and she just was pointing me on those directions that it was just private pay.
Mm,
For support, just kind of like a hiring your own person to go to school and help your kid. And at the time, I had no idea that RBTs or AB, nothing, you know, nothing about that. And I wish I did, because that would have like totally helped, like having somebody there, like helping him at school, without having to pull him out of school.
yeah. Wow. So when you got the diagnosis report and it had all the recommendations of ABA, OT, PT, all the things that, it might be helpful for him. Is that when you found out about ABA or did you have to kind of do your own research?
Yeah. So during that time when we got the diagnosis, I quickly start like joining like Facebook groups, support groups, just trying to navigate and research. And that's when I found out about ABA, trying to get my own like, well, what is ABA? Would that work for him? And yeah, and I had to say it like at first, there was like a two sides, so like a one side that completely against ABA and the other side like a yes is a really good
Life changing. Yeah.
yeah, yes, and I remember my mom telling me because we had a neighbor growing up that her kid has autism, and I remember the mom always sharing like the type of therapy that he had to have. I'm pretty sure in Italy, like it's called something else. But basically ABA, but it just probably has a different name. But I remember like she sharing some stories, like her kid being forced to have to eat the same food every day. So he would like comply and learn how to eat and stories like that. So I was like, so that's therapy. This is ABA. So I quickly, my mom was like,
Wow.
nope, 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 we're not doing this. And then, forgot how I just slowly, I think, started doing my own research, on Google, like listening to people's stories. And then I joined a Georgia special needs group on Facebook and I started searching like ABA and I actually came across Seth's mom. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
So she was like recommending Dogwood. Yeah, so, she talked about dogwood, and that was already on one of my list preferred, clinics, and, she was, like, really worried about, like, how would that look like for her son, and she was just like and I was like, "Okay, so she cares. She's a worried mom. She probably feels exactly how I'm feeling right now." So I reached out to her and I asked her, like, her feedback about dogwood and just asked her so many questions, and I was like, "Okay, whew, I think I'm just going to make that call." And I remember making that call and just felt, like, so scared.
Yeah. So you made the call and you toured the clinic,
Yes.
right? What was it about the clinic itself that made you like comfortable taking the next step?
Honestly, never really felt like uncomfortable. Just like leaving the time he was my only baby, and
Mm-mm.
just like having to leave your baby behind, like a long hours, like a
Yeah.
so far away from home. Because at the time we were driving like 35, 40 minutes, like
Yeah.
so far away. Just like I don't not really know what's happening, what he's learning.
Yeah.
It was really hard for sure.
Right.
So it never really felt comfortable, but it got easier.
Yeah.
Just seeing some progress and just seeing his demeanor, like a slowly warming up to go there. So yeah,
What about when they initially, they have the observation and then they give you their recommendation? Like the BCBA does the assessment and then they say, okay, this is how many hours and the location that we would like for Ronan. What was that like? Was that as you expected? Was that totally unexpected and you had to like kind of talk yourself into it? Did you have questions?
so the hours definitely was always an issue for me. And I remember talking to Hannah about it. And then I remember she also saying like it was really hard to commit with the hours. But she was like, I promise you it gets easier and easier. And I did. I think at the time he was doing like 28, 29 hours a week. When he was only going a part time in the preschool, he was like going 3 times a week, like 4 hours a day. So it's like the change, he was like, "Oh, wow, that was a lot." Um, Another time he was doing speech and he was doing play therapy. So it just felt I always had that guilt, like, "Oh my God, like I'm overworking. Like I'm not doing the right thing. Like
Right.
is this right for him?"
How long did that take for you to know that it was? That you're like, "Okay, this was the right call." How long do you feel like that took?
Definitely seeing the progress that he was making, and probably took like I would say like a month or
Wow.
yeah. Yeah.
My
And
god.
like and then we get to meet you and then just that I feel like that's when I instantly just felt like, oh my God, this is what I wanted, just like a community and just like I have, like there was more open communication and then just like
Mm.
it felt good knowing that he is in good care. He's thriving. He is doing good progress, and that's when he graduated to preschool. He and I was like, okay, yes, we did it. I think ABA it was good for him.
What was the most helpful for you when he was going through his comprehensive program where he was gone almost 30 hours
Yeah.
of the week as far as communication between the RBTs and the BCBAs and you? What did you find the most helpful? And then what did you find like was the hardest part? Just not having access to him all day? Or what did you think? Was it the fact that they only could send you so many pictures per day? Or, it's so much more restricted than like a
Yes.
daycare because of
Yes.
like HIPAA and
Yes.
privacy laws. We can't give you access to cameras and we can't allow you to come and like volunteer at the school. Like
Yeah.
there's so many things that are protecting the kids, but that makes it so much harder for the parents,
Yep.
I
So
would think.
that was definitely hard. Again, like and not being able to know like what's going on or and at first, honestly, we didn't even get any pictures, and I had no idea that that they could provide some pictures if you sign a release form or I forgot what was the process. And but that was like probably like a couple months later that we had no idea. It's like at this whole time we could have got some pictures.
Yeah.
But it was hard. Again, like in his preschool, there was always some sort of like a breakfast, breakfast with your kid or, some sort of event where you're like a very involved in the school and, knowing the teachers and, just constantly some sort of event where you part of the school and, ABA is not really programmed to be that way. It was really hard not getting to meet his tech beforehand. So we had no idea who his BCBA would be or his RBT would be. And that was really hard. Like, okay, so you're asking me to drop off my baby 40 minutes away from home with somebody I had no idea who it is.
Yeah.
That was so hard.
Yeah. Because traditionally, especially at his age, you would have a tour with the introduction to the teacher and you would
Yeah,
receive emails
yeah,
from them and
yeah.
comments.
Open
Yeah.
house. with the teacher and students.
Right.
Yeah.
Did your perspective of Ronan change at all during this entire process? Did you ever feel like you knew him any less? Or that did the diagnosis change anything for you in regards to Ronan and his personality and who he was as a person?
Maybe at the beginning, having to accept the diagnosis. Again, like I was raised where mental health is not normal. People don't really accept in that way. So having to accept that diagnosis alone, I think that was a big challenge, and having to share that with family and friends that almost felt like a shame, like, oh my God, they're not going to accept my kid. But then I learned that, okay, if I don't accept my kid, then they won't either.
What would you say to somebody that they were going through the exact same thing? Maybe they felt alone. They didn't have somebody to really share this diagnosis with. You're three years past it, Ronan's 6 now. What would you tell them?
That they're definitely not alone. You're not alone. It feels like you're alone, but find your village. It's a very hard journey, but you're not alone. It will get easier, and you're doing the best you can, and better than you think. A very overwhelming journey, but we grow and we learn as we go. Yeah,
Yeah.
just keep showing up and celebrate this small, small progress.
Yes. That's great advice.
Yeah.
Yes. Keep showing up. I love that.
Yep.
Keep researching and do what feels right because
Yep.
that's going to look different for
Yep.
every family too. Um, So I obviously did not create my parent playbook until, a few months ago. And
Yep.
Karen was so helpful in this process because I am not a parent that has a child diagnosed with autism. So it was so helpful for me to get your perspective on what did you want to know in these early days and what would have been helpful. So thank you for that. Obviously talking the playbook itself. What do you feel like was the most helpful parts of it? That if you did have that during that time, that you would have felt like you really would have held on to, or some advice that came from the book. I mean, I know you helped me write it, so there's a lot in there right from you. But just from your perspective, what do you think would have been the most helpful to that person that might be going through the same feelings?
It was eh, that just I don't even know how to put the words in on it. It was just something that I really wish that I had. Like that those early stages where you feel so overwhelmed, you don't know what to do, you don't know so much information out there, so many type of therapies and is so overwhelming. And I really wish I had that, or more so, I just wish I had somebody that could just hold my hand and like walk me through. And I wish I had met you back then, because like I feel like that would have really, really helped navigating all that. Yeah. So I really just go what you did is just like amazing, because I think it would really help a lot of people. Especially parents that feel so overwhelmed and they don't know where to start. They don't know what to do. Like the step by step. It's just amazing.
Thank you. Like I said, you helped me kind of figure out exactly what that was. I mean,
Yes.
I think a big part of it too is you receive such a large treatment plan when you get this diagnosis, and it's not always written in the most strength based language. And
Yeah.
so it's kind of just like, here's your problems, here's your problem child. What a horrible way to
Yep.
receive, a diagnosis when it shouldn't be
Yep.
that way. And again, it's not always flowers and daisies and everything is great. There's reasons and there's concerns that you had as a parent that brought you to that place. But being able to learn about the diagnosis in a strength-based way and kind of breaking down, like you said, I didn't even know ABA was possible.
Yep.
And when I started looking at it, I've got that this could change my child's life or that
Yep.
this could traumatize them forever. And it's
Yep.
like, okay, how do I know?
Yep.
Like, I want to help them, but those aren't great odds. I think that was the one of the things for that you pointed out for me that I knew I wanted to add to the book was more about
ABA.
the ABA like perspectives and how you're gonna see both If
Yep.
you research it, you're going to see both sides, and there still is good and bad services
Yep.
out there. And to be able to have somebody recognize it and be like, look, you're going to hear both opinions. Let me tell you why.
Yep.
Both are valid in their
Yep.
own way because ABA wasn't great. And there's
Yep.
still some companies that they're not. But like moving a step forward, how do you know? How do you know what to look for? Was such a great addition that you helped me.
Yep. Yeah. Like again, when we got the diagnosed, there were some resources there from his psychologist, the psychologist, but it was kind of one of those things like, here, good luck. Again, like I wish I knew there was somebody that could like explain, or somebody that we could like, because you are also a parent coaching, and somebody that you can just ask questions, and we didn't have that. Yeah.
You don't have it and you're trying to process all of this new information while at the same time being completely overwhelmed and up to here
Yeah.
and your own thoughts. And it's kind of like, and trying to learn this information and then try to apply it to my specific child, which I mean, that's very hard to do
Yep.
when you
Yep.
have so many emotions happening.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because I remember back then, like, asking opinion to his play therapist and like a speech therapist, like about ABA, and then it was always like conflicting information. I really wish that we had that kind of resource back then, and I think it would have really changed a lot, and we would have gotten things move quicker. Gave him
Right.
more support quicker, because it took us like a few months before we even like start reaching out for ABA.
Yeah. I mean, you're like, this is a really serious decision that I'm
Yeah,
having to make. I can't make it lightly.
yeah.
And I'm doing it all on my own. Well, to close out, I would love if you would share about Ronan and just like his personality and his strengths and just the person that he's become.
Yeah.
You had when you first wanted to be diagnosed, he was having kids out of preschool and he had 5 words and was super rigid and having these tantrums and these behaviors. And I
So
want to talk about where he is
yeah.
now.
So Ronan was nonverbal for probably until he was 3 years. He was not talking at all, just really, really just a few words. I think he put his two sentence together when he was about 3.5. But now he graduated. He graduated speech therapy after 5.5 years. So he's
Mhm.
fully verbal. He's in first grade. He's 6. He's doing great. So again, this journey is up and down, but such a sweet baby. He is the most funny little guy. He makes everybody laugh with his
He's
jokes.
a cat lover.
He
Love.
loves he loves to learn. He loves cats and dogs and all the
He's
poop
great at
and fart jokes.
such a great reader. I mean,
He
he's
loves to read. I'm so impressed with his reading. He
was
loves
too. When I was the other day when he was reading out loud those things to me, I was like, oh my gosh, he's getting more fluent with those words. Are not just sight words to him
Yes.
anymore.
Yep.
He's really figuring it out.
Yep.
Oh, we're so proud of him.
Yes, he just recently started getting interested in reading chapter books, which is so amazing to me because I didn't learn how to even start reading like on first grade. Like in probably the way that he's reading now. I probably was second, third grade when I started reading like more fluent.
Same. Gosh, I remember being in like my second grade classroom and starting to pick out those longer books. Smart guy.
Yep,
Well, thank you so much
of
for
course.
coming on and explaining your story. I know this is going to be so helpful to so many people.
I really
Um,
hope so. It helps
yeah,
someone, even if it helps one mom out there or parent, and I think
right,
it'd be great.
right. When you said earlier, I was like, what did that feel like pre-diagnosis when all these things were happening? I was like, were you scared? Or, and you're just like, it was just lonely. That alone is like, yes, that is why we're doing this.
Yeah, it is. And I know that there are a lot of parents out there that they don't have a support, like their parents and they don't. And I read those stories all the time where like their families are like brushing them off, and I don't think that's autism. And I had a lot of that too. Like some friends that like I don't think that's autism, and that hurts because you just know that they're not understanding, or sometimes be sharing Ronan's challenges and they're like, "Oh yeah, I deal with that at home too." And it's like, no, you don't understand like the degree that we're seeing and it's hard.
Yeah. It's almost it's hard on every level
Yeah.
because you have, your level 3 high need support that is so difficult. And then you have your level ones who might not need as much support in day to day life, but they don't get the same empathy as the others because they're not always looked at as,
Yeah.
as
Yep.
having autism. If you see
Yep.
him at Target having an absolute meltdown, nobody's going to know
Yep.
that he has autism. He's not going to present that way. So it's hard at every level
Yep.
for different reasons. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, yeah, like you said, again, like at level ones, I think, when they see them having a meltdown in public, they're just like, oh my gosh, and they're just terrible parents. They're not parenting their child. And it's just so hard to do that. But that's another.
Yeah, I all the mama bear comes out. Like,
Yes.
you can just you can tell there's judgment
Yes.
and, it's you have to do your best to just be like,
Yes.
I'm not even gonna worry about you. You're not worth my time. I'm
Yeah.
gonna try to support my kid, but at the same time, it's like, are you freaking kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
go get a life. I can't. Yeah. Well, you're amazing.
You are.
You're an incredible mom. Oh my gosh. There's so much that I could say about just your proactivity. And I know because I've seen it firsthand, but you would do absolutely anything you possibly could for your kids.
Yep.
And
I
end of
definitely would.
story. Well, thank you again.
Thank you for having me.